In this lesson, we'll use scrapbooks to add titles to our drawing. Alright, so we have perspectives and our elevations in place, but what I want to do now is I want to label these, but I also want to ground my elevations with a nice dark heavy line. So let's start out with scrapbooks. Now what I like about scrapbooks is it's a really helpful tool located right here to the right, and we can expand it, that has a bunch of drafting symbols, drawing, trees, people, cars, you name it, north arrows, even graphic scales. They all are in place to basically help you save time in your presentation. So we're not trying to create these symbols or having to dig through libraries to actually get it. I can go to the scrapbooks and I can come here and I can go to the drop down and I can choose from any number of signs here. So you can see all these drafting symbols we have. Arrows, sections, elevations. For me, I'm going to go to this first one and I'm going to go with this drawing title I want to use here. So to bring it onto your page, simply left click, hold down that left click and drop it onto your page. And it's as easy as that. And as far as behavior and working with this, it's a lot like working with the images we have in place up here. You could select it. We can increase its size simply by grabbing here, like so. I can move it same way, highlight it, move it where we want it. In our case, I'm going to align it there. Maybe we want to stretch this out, but then again, you might go through some distortion there. But I don't want my bubble to be too distorted. I actually want it to be round. But what I want to do now is kind of edit the text and stuff that's in here. So I want my text to be bigger, and I want to make this specific to what's going on in my set of documents. So you can double click on any one of these elements. So I'm going to double click on my A here, and this needs to be bigger and it needs to be A1. So we'll go to text style. I'm going to say maybe 18 will work here, 16. And we're going to change what's inside. We're going to say A1. I'm going to go ahead and come up here to the top and do the same thing for my 0 here and change that to a 1. And I want that to be the same size as this A, which is a 20. Double click the 1, change it to a 20. And we are in business, and that reads a lot better. So let's come over here and drawing description. So this one's going to be perspective 1, but I also want this to be a larger font as well. So we'll say 16. And then for my scale, we're going to be not to scale pretty much here. So I'm going to double click in there, and I'm going to come in here. And for scale, I'm going to type in NTS, capital NTS. Not to scale, but I want to increase the size of this as well. So we know how to do that now, don't we? So we can come back here to 11, give it 11-point font. I'm going to scroll out, and this reads a lot better. So that's how you do that. Now, if you want to copy on over, just go ahead and copy on over. So we could say Control-C, Control-V. We'll grab it, move it, and we'll follow that red dashed line so we know that we're aligned. I'm going to drag it across, and I'm going to align it to the left there. And then again, we could double click and change the letters in here appropriately. So the next one will actually be perspective 2. So we'll do that real quick. So we'll double click on the 1 here, 2. I'm going to come here to my perspective. We're going to change that to perspective 2. And again, not to scale. Perfect. So we could do the same thing here on the bottom for our bottom, and we'll tack that really quick. So we'll say Control-C, Control-V. And I'm going to move that down below as well. And you can see I'm following that green dashed line. That lets me know it's aligned vertically. So I like that as well. So now what I want to do is, since these are our elevations, you're probably going to want to have these to scale as well as your floor plans. But I'm not too worried about perspectives. I can have those out of scale or not to scale. But if I want to scale an image, easy stuff. So I'm going to scroll in here, highlight my image, right click. I'm going to go to scale and check out this number of scales we have to work with. Now I know mine's going to be closer to 1 inch equals 60. So I'm going to type that in there or select that. And you'll see it automatically adjusts for us nicely. So that lets me know while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and put that scale in here. So I'm going to say 1 inch equals 60 feet. And if I want to, I can space out between that equals maybe. There we go. And this one, we'll change that. That's actually elevation 1. Or in this case, we'll say front elevation. All right. We'll go ahead and click out here to kind of accept it. And we know this will be drawing number 5 on sheet A1. And then I can come to this one. Again, right click, scale, 1 inch equals 60 foot. It'll adjust in there nicely. I can now grab this, Control C, Control V, grab it and move it and do the same thing we did like we did up there on top. So we'll get this where it needs to be aligned. We'll double click on here, change this to drawing 6, and this one should be your right elevation. Perfect. You see how that works? So now let's ground these elevations. They're floating right now, and according to most drafting standards, we don't want to have any floating elevations here. So I'm going to go ahead and use shapes to get that accomplished real quick. So we have our shapes palette up here. We can actually expand that, and what I want to do is I want to apply a fill pattern, or fill color, excuse me. So click on that, and we'll go to this wheel, and I'm going to click on the very bottom and get a nice dark color here. And now I can close this, and I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw my first guy here. So we're going to go from this corner to here. And I'm going to keep in mind the dimensions I have in place here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And we'll expand out those edges a little bit in just a momentarily here. But I mainly want to get this aligned properly. Boom. And that's how we're going to get that done. So I could see that these need to be adjusted as well, but these aren't scaled yet. So we'll focus on these two here. So now it's a matter of grabbing the shape and expanding, or grabbing and gripping and extending these however far they need to go. And this will actually help us ground those elevations. Do the same thing here. Very easy. Perfect. You see how easy that works? So I'm going to go ahead and take this. We're going to move this up. Move this to where it lines up kind of with that grounded plane there. Actually, we'll kind of keep all of our lettering aligned here. I like that much better. But I do want this to move up just a little bit closer to our plane on the bottom. Perfect. I'm going to take this one, do the same thing. There we go. So now we have our title in place, scale noted, page, drawing number, name. We even have, we use some shapes to kind of ground our elevations. So what I'll do is I'll take a little bit extra time, and I'm going to go ahead and finish out the rest of these. That way we have, a nice page here that's not incomplete. I'm going to do the same thing for our guys down here on bottom. I'll scale, create our shape, and just basically copy my titles over and then just edit the little details within those titles. So that's how you go about taking care of our perspectives and elevations. So in the next lesson, we're going to jump into how we can create another sheet where we're actually going to be working on, which will be our next page. And let's see what page that would be. It'll probably be our page 4. And we're going to go ahead and name that. We'll name that in the next lesson. And this will actually be our floor plans and sections. So I'll meet you in the next lesson.